Hi, my name is Myra Tanksing. I am recording this on November the 3rd, 2017. I am a proud single parent, Christian parent of a 24-year-old with autism who is, for several years now, has been a victim of intense suffering, abuse, neglect, um, and exploitation by the government and a unfit, wicked, evil, racist attorney that was appointed his guardian. Um, The government is the state of Ohio and Franklin County, Ohio government, and probate court of Franklin County, Ohio. And the so-called attorney name is Aaron Sanford of the Nye Law Group, LLC. She just got hired there. Before that, she's only been a lawyer 8 years, and she was working for Match Bar Law Office prior to going over to this Nye Law Group, LLC. And my son was at a state of Ohio ICF MRF facility, intermediate care facility for the mentally retarded, where he was being abused repeatedly, neglected repeatedly, off of federal funds. And I got a story to tell. I need to write a book because it's just that much of corruption, fraud, slander of me, and incompetence. And this has been going on for several years now, and I've been recording every bit of it. I've been either making recordings or taking pictures or, um, getting documents and stuff. I am African American, so they can't handle that. Me coming in and speaking about my son, maltreatment or abuse or neglect. I'm supposed to just hang my head, lower my lip, and not say anything. Now they can, and that's why, I'm going to go and allude to this racism because people wonder, well, why your guardianship was taken away. Well, you don't have to do anything wrong to have somebody do you wrong. Like my son ain't done anything to those people, but they treat him worse than a criminal. I say even these inmates get to have phone calls and visits but they did that out of protection for themselves. They don't want me to be able to see all the signs of abuse, the evidence of abuse and neglect, you know, um, on him physically. And they don't allow him to call me. They want him to tell, because he's high functioning, and they don't want him to tell me all the things that are happening to him, like he has done in the past. I had 3 Facebook pages, but this particular recording that I'm making right now is of actual phone messages left on my, in my voicemail, and it's from several different people, and there's uh, messages left about my son being restrained. Like I think in that one week he was almost restrained every day, more than once, which terrorizes and traumatizes him. When you restrain autistic individuals, it can make them um, escalate. And like I said, it also traumatizes them and terrorizes them. It doesn't deter them because of their disability, which also let me know that for them to have to restrain him that much, that they didn't know how to manage his disability. They didn't know how to stop him from having triggers. The environment was, they were triggering and setting my son off morning, noon, and night in that environment. And I knew what type of environment it was because I had been over there. The living area is filthy, it's noisy, the staff is abusive, they're incompetent, they don't know how to work with autism people, they don't know how to, um, you know, uh, keep, the environment, because noise is a thing that would definitely trigger my son and a lot of autistic people, but it's all the senses. But it just let you know that they weren't able to maintain the proper environment for him. He was getting set off by the noise of the residents, the way the staff would approach him, how they would abuse him, talk to him. So he's being triggered morning, noon, and night over there. So that's what that means when you got somebody, we had to restrain him again. We had to restrain him again. And they try to make it sound like he was a monster. I said, well, but do they know why he's doing these things? What is triggering him? And so they had no clue. But I'm black, I'm not supposed to say anything. And then the reason why I say stuff about racism, and I don't care who denies it and stuff. I had a Buddha lady from a conversation. I said, I don't go tit for tat about racism. I know people deny it. I know racist white people deny it. I could care less if they deny it. But I'm not going to go tit, because I'm past that. I'm living it. So I know it exists. And I told her, I said, well, that's your experience with the legal department system. Everybody doesn't have the same experience in this country. Oh, you got to throw up the race cards. And I said, oh, bye. You're getting a denial boot. Because, it's pretty ignorant and idiotic to expect everybody to, say that they have the same experience in this country when they don't. And then she said something, well, you could go to the legal venues if you had proof. Now, here I got 3 pages and this is proof too, because I got the actual recordings of the phone messages. But, to try to say that somebody doesn't have enough proof. And then she might have never went to all the rest of my Facebook pages. But I have already put it out there. I'm past that point. So I don't go back and forth with people with that. If they're going to, try to engage me in to talk about my evidence, only thing before I boot them and ban them is you go to the Facebook page. They speak for themselves, because I'm not full of hot air. It ain't just my imagination, and it's not my son. His name is Marquise, and it's not Marquise's imagination. I got pictures. Like I said, I got documents. I got recordings. That's the way I do it. If I put it out there, I come with evidence. So I don't waste my time discussing that with anybody. And if people are still hung up on that, they get booted. Because I'm past that point. And my thing is, I'm putting it out there. I said I'm going to put this thing out here like I believe God wants me to. I'm going to put it out here as awareness, because it'll take God to bring Marquise back home. He's the only one that'll be able to do that, because you got a system, an army full of racist, wicked, sick people that are in government, just like in the illegal system, the courts. You got judges, magistrates, you got court investigators, you got these corrupt lying attorneys like Aaron Sanford, and only God can defeat that, because they are able to abuse the little bit of power that they have. They can file all kind of motions. So just because somebody take your guardianship away don't mean that it was ethical and the right thing to do. But the number one reason was because I was a person that would speak out about my son's abuse and neglect and collect evidence. So it's easier for them and better for them if they don't have to call me and say what I have on this recording that I'm going to, like I said, it's a series of voice messages about my son being restrained, about him getting medication errors. One time he got too much medication 2 days in a row, which affected his behavior, affected him in every kind of way. On another occasion, his medication was missed. And so, I'm just going to put it out there. But I always been blamed as the black mother, because they don't tell white mothers and white fathers, you're escalating your son or daughter when they're having aggressive behaviors. But they tell me that. I was told that. And so that's why I said there's a lot of racism in this thing. But, the number one reason was because of taking my guardianship so that they could protect themselves. They don't have to call Miss Tanksley and say he was restrained and all this kind of stuff. The second reason was because of my race. I said, because people are in denial, and I don't care. Like, when I see stuff like that, I said, this person's in denial. Bye-bye. Because I'm not going to go back and forth with what I know to be true with my evidence and what I've been living. That's just why I feel about it. I said, I know people are in denial. That's why this country's going to go down, but that's a different matter. So I have to get to this because this is like a 30-minute tape. And we're going to start off first with a recording, which is a copy recording from December the 1st, 2012, when the incompetent staff, abusive staff, didn't know how to restrain my son. I mean, training is very important. You got to know how to work with procedures and techniques. You also have to know how to work with that person, their disability, who they are. You got to, I mean, that will give you a successful outcome. And they actually did a prone restraint on my son, which has been outlawed in the state of Ohio ever since that girl got killed up there in uh, being restrained in a Catholic facility or something. But it's outlawed and illegal because it causes suffocation, which is what she died of. So this occurred on December 1st, 2012. That also was the day later on. Marquise had been restrained all day long. I had forgotten about it, but I got the recordings on here of them calling me, telling me he's been repeatedly restrained. And then later on, he was also attacked and punched in his chest, grabbed by the t-shirt, and then thrown in the van. In that order, he was attacked, punched, grabbed by the t-shirt, and thrown in the van. But when I had seen him, before they put him in prone restraint, and then we walked on down um, towards the van, and then they had him in a position where his arms, two staff members holding his arms up, and they called this thug over there to, I guess, teach Marquise a lesson. But Guy had it set up that this thug didn't even know I was there. I got it on audio tape. I couldn't get it on videotape because it wasn't light enough outside because it was getting dark. But he allowed me to be able to see this thug attack and assault and punch my son in the chest. And you will hear it on the audio tape. But before all of that happened, and I have a picture that I'm going to try to insert on this recording that shows Marquise's hand with a fresh open wound, and it was on his hand. And you could tell it's not from him hitting anything. It was circular, so it probably was like from a fingernail. Because, like I said, with this one, you could see that they didn't know how to restrain safely. They shouldn't have been restraining him. And they were actually doing a illegal restraint in the state of Ohio. So let's go because it's going to be getting close to almost an hour, and I need to get these recordings. So this first recording is from December 1st, 2012, and you can hear Marquise saying, "I'm out of breath," and when I'm saying, "Breathe." And I just, I said, well, I'm going to be calm, even though your heart is ripping aside. This is your child, that you're seeing these idiots do this with. And I told him, I said, I'm a nurse. You need to turn him over, flip him over right now. Get him off of his, because they had him face down. I said, turn him on his back so he can breathe. Because they were suffocating. One of them was straddling his back and everything. The things that I have seen. And that's why I said, I won't go back and forth with anybody. I said, on Facebook. I said, you come to those pages, you better just be able to go ahead and read it. People can comment. People have comment. But I'm not going to hear anything where I don't want to hear anything about race car or evidence. Because that's already been proven and done. I don't have to, discuss that with anybody, because it's there. So, and I could care less just because people are in racial denial. But if they are, they have to take it someplace else. So here we go, December the 1st, 2012, and this is Marquise in a prone restraint. And I'll be stopping the tapes as I kind of tell you what you'll be listening to for the next one, because it's probably about, it might be, I don't know, maybe 25 recordings of phone messages that is going to be on this tape. So here we go. So you can see that when I first started, I didn't have it at the first part, but this is a copy of that whole situation that happened on December 1st, 2012, ending up with me seeing my son being punched in the chest and him screaming out and crying for me and that sort of thing. But you could hear where he was actually saying, "I'm out of breath," and you could actually, because he was upset, the staff didn't know what they were doing, so I had to try to be the calm head in the situation. And as a registered nurse of many years, that's what I did. And I told him, I said, take it from a nurse. You can't leave him face down like that. You have to turn him over. But they were suffocating my son. So let's go to the next thing. And then I have a call for somebody saying that my son punched somebody, a peer at the at CDC, and that was November 27th. And I always ask myself, but what's happening? What is precipitating for my son to do these things if he actually did these things? You know, I say he ain't just going to walk up and just put somebody out of something. Was a resident threatening him or made him feel afraid or something? I mean, what is going on? So let me find that part and then we'll get to it. Because I think I have to. Let's see. Oh, and then after this is a copy of when he punched my son in the chest about 20 minutes later. So that is actually on its own uh, cassette tape, but I also had made a copy, and that was from December 1st, 2012, when I actually seen this big thug come over and assaulted, abused, and punched punched my son in the chest. And you can hear that he was there. He didn't know I was there because God had set it up where I could see him and he couldn't see me. And he said, I grabbed him by the chest, or I grabbed him by the shirt. He wasn't going to admit that he punched him in the chest, but he said, I grabbed him by the shirt, and he said that Marquise, my son, wasn't going to be allowed to do what he was doing, which was having a meltdown, I said, because the stuff that I seen, I lived this stuff, and I got the proof to show that I lived it. So let's move on here. And then there's a call, like I said, on the 27th, because what you heard, the last two things that I just put out, or that you heard, was actually December 1st, 2012. This is November 27th, 2012. Let's see. Well, again, that was the uh, recording of my son being hit in the chest, and me telling the guy I seen him do it, and he said no, I pull him. I grabbed him by the shirt and stuff. So let's go on back to these next ones and stuff. And there's one in here where I had a conversation, I think, with somebody, but um, it shouldn't be in here, and I think it was like 4 minutes long. So I'll skip over that one when I get to it.
Messages, press 1. To change your personal options, press first saved message from phone number 614-221-1921. Received November 12th at 10:15 a.m.
Okay, I'm gonna go over that one. That's not one that I think this was with the home staff or some kind of thing. Hold on.
We will not be responding. If you have any further questions, I spoke with OSU Police Department. They're actually the ones that would take care of this report, and they said they already spoke with you and took care of it at the hospital. So we will not be responding. If you have any further questions, please feel free to give OSU Police Department a call. Thank you.
Okay, that was when I had to call Columbus Police Department because of the way OSU Hospital was treating my son, and they called me to tell me they wasn't coming out to take a report because OSU Hospital had already did, which meant nothing because it was OSU Hospital that had did this to my son. I mean, the stuff I've been through, some of the stuff I haven't even forgotten. That's another reason why I record things and stuff, write things down and stuff, because it's just so much going on all the time. So that's what that call was from. So let's move on.
To replay, press 4. To erase, press 7. To save, press 9. To hear all options, press 0. Message erased. Next message from phone number 614-732-8395. Received November 13th at 1:16 p.m. Hi. Hello, Myra. This is Chris. Yeah, Marquise was having an episode today. He was already, in the event by the time I got there. He did take his meds. Um, but what before I left, he came out because he was in this room in the bathroom. He came out, hit Greg, hit me, spit it both up. The fact he came out, went for Greg. Greg got away, and I was standing there, so he came for me. And, he spit at me, and, I was trying to talk him down. And, he just kind of ran outside, ran in the middle of the street, and, so we had to call the police and everything. So I just wanted to give you a call to let you know. I'll continue to give you a call back until I'm able to speak with you. Okay, all right, bye.
Okay, that was a Home D agency that, and I even worked with them and worked with the staff and tried to train them and stuff, and they didn't know how to work with him. I mean, I've seen that throughout. It's just been everywhere, and they end up actually escalating my son to the point where then he's having meltdowns. They just don't know how to de-escalate him, or they do something that triggers a meltdown. So that's what that phone call was from. And I think I called back and had a real long talk with them, and I have that on tape too. But I'll probably just pass over that because it's muffled, and so let's keep going here.
To replay, press 4. To erase, press 7. To message erase. Next message from phone number 614-678-6463. Received November 16th at 2:35 p.m. I just want to write everything down for the spelling out.
Okay, yeah, this is the phone call that uh, when they had called me that second time, and I tried to, I called them before that. They called me the second time, and I think I talked to them about 5 minutes about what happened with my son. And because at that time he was living in a apartment on Lockbourne Road, and he was only in that apartment is because I had lost my house to foreclosure, so I was living with um, someplace else with my niece, and I couldn't bring him with me. But I had found a um, apartment that Franklin County Board DD offered me after they refused to put him in a house. And I have the emails where there was going to be a house that was going to come open that Marquise could move into, and but that didn't fall through. Well, it didn't come through, and so they said, "Here's this apartment on Lockport Road." So Marquise moved into there, but it was found out to be a very hostile neighborhood. But the main thing is that he had home DD staff that just, you know, they just wasn't trained. So he had two different home DD staff, and I would call about MUIs and all that kind of stuff. But Franklin County Board of DD didn't even pay no attention to it. But anyway, that's what this phone call is about. And I'm going to skip over this um, because, I was always civil and stuff. But I said, you need to, you can't, you got to know how to work with my son. And I give people trigger lists. I would tell them about Marquise. I'd come over and like every day I would go over there and cook his dinner and make sure his clothes, I would do his clothes, talk to the staff, just keep an eye on things and stuff because that's my son and I love my child. But, it's just, it's probably one fourth of the problem when people don't know about autism and don't know how to, work with an autistic person, you know, don't have the personality skills, doesn't have patience, resents you for coming around so you can see what's going on, don't want to, you to be around to give them input or anything. It's just, it's just awful. But anyway, I'm going to skip through this real quick here.
Hi, Mrs. Tanksley. This is Robert Capaldi from CDC. I understand you've been trying to get a hold of Heidi, and I have to apologize for her. She is out with a sick loved one. If you can give me a call so we can make arrangements to meet and discuss Marquise's care while he's with us, my number is 272-3112. We'd like to meet you this afternoon, and we can meet at our coffee shop or our grounds office, and we'll bring Marquise over so you can see him. And we need to discuss how things are going to go while he's here. So if you can give me a call again, that's 272-3112. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
To replay, press 4.
Now, this was, or this part of the tape is actually the section where you'll hear all the phone calls from CDC about Marquise being restrained and the med errors. And then there's a phone call from Franklin County Board DD, Mike Rosales, saying that they thought Marquise would be returning to his apartment from CDC. Because remember now, Marquise was at CDC earlier that year voluntarily for 47 days while I had our house modified. I had the walls just, actually strengthened. I forgot what material they use, um, so that, that your walls won't easily, break or, but anyway, it was home modifications. And at that time, Marquise was abused by a guy named Robert. Danny told me about it. And I also have some um, evidence of all of that, all of the abuse that he suffered the first time he was there, which was a voluntary admission for 47 days. And then he also was, um, or I gave consent as his guardian and as his mother for him to be evaluated and consent for, the psychological evaluation and that sort of thing. I have no problems. And FCBDD, Franklin County Board of Developmental Disability, slandered me and said that I wouldn't consent to evaluations. I'm a nurse. I even do evaluations. I have no problems. I've been consenting for my son to have assessments and evaluations ever since he's been born. No big deal. But that's how they'll slander you. But this guy, this Capaldi guy that you just heard, just give you a backdrop, is a very corrupt government employee that has been in the field of developmental disabilities for a long time, probably been in a lot of different facilities, that turns his head while people are abused and neglected in that system, because that's the thing, is a code of silence. You're not supposed to speak about it as a employee. You're supposed to keep your mouth shut when you see these residents being abused and exploited if you want to keep your job. But they don't want no family member to come in there and they say, oh, well, this woman, she ain't going to keep her mouth shut and she collects evidence. So we need to get the guardianship away so that we can have somebody else to call that don't give a darn when we have to restrain him or anything else. And then, around that time, they would tell me, don't come over to visit, or don't visit with him today, or and stuff. And I realized, I said, well, they always said blame me for this, which they can't, because when he's getting restrained, I'm not there. I'm at home. But they also didn't want me to visit because they probably didn't want me to see the injuries that my son was having done to him while they were restraining him. Like December the 1st, 2012, that round, circular, fresh, open wound on his hand was from them restraining him. It wasn't from him. So they say, oh, Belinky even told me that, the deceased attorney that God put his light out. When I talked to him, I think it was that on a Friday, he told me not to come over there. Don't go over there and visit him this weekend. I said, they probably don't want me to see all the bruises, the redness, the scratches. And plus, my son probably would tell me, Mom, they restrained me like he has done in these other audio tapes. Because this is just a special recording, and I still got many more to go. And I hope I can get all of this in before the hour's up. But he would tell me things. And so they would tell me he was restrained today. Or like Heidi Hughes told me, a corrupt, glorified social worker over there. We got to see, we could find a safe, that Marquise could visit with you and he could be safe and stuff. I said, well, but so what's happening when you're calling me every day and telling me 2 or 3 times in that day, or call me and said he's been restrained 2 or 3 times in that day? That one day he's been restrained. I'm not over there. I haven't talked to him on the phone or said, so what's going on over there? Who are you going to blame for that? But I realized when they would tell me, no, you shouldn't come over here and visit or whatever. Like that time Marquise eloped and they didn't know nothing about it. I mean, you just wouldn't believe all the stuff. And I wanted to go over there and take him his Long John Silver. They told me I couldn't see him. I said, I bet they don't want me to see him. And by the time I see him, he would be, yelling out about taking him home and telling me how they had restrained him and pushed him down on the floor. And then I'll probably be able to see signs of abuse. So, no, they don't want you to visit. But anyway, that's what that call was. I think the next call was them calling me saying Marquise pushed someone or whatever. I said, did they push him first, or are they in his space and triggering him and causing him to have a meltdown or put him in sister low? What I mean, I never would hear anything like that. They would just say that we had restraining because Marquise did this, Marquise did that. You know, never acknowledging or knowing that what he's doing is in response to what y'all have him living in. Is it the staff, residents, the environment? Is it too noisy? What's going on? They never would say anything about that. So I think this is from 1127, call for the CDC that Marquise pushed someone.
To erase, press 7. To save, press 9. To hear all options, press 0. Message saved. Next message from phone number 614-272-0509. Received November 21st at 12 p.m.
Hi, this is Bonnie. I'm the director of nursing at CDC. I just wanted to give you a call. We're looking at Marquise Labs from.
Okay, this is 1121 when Bonnie called and said that Marquise's lab, his BUN was abnormal. It was 40. And, that indicates it could be that he was, not getting enough water and he wasn't hydrated enough. So he was dehydrated. And that was after he had arrived at CDC either on the 14th or the 15th, so they wasn't giving enough drinks. And before that, they had him overnight in jail, and then at OSU, where they had him at OSU overnight after taking him to jail from his apartment because the staff had called on him too and that sort of thing. So Marquise has been through hell. And I'm going like, well, you're not letting my son have a drink. Y'all not giving him liquids and stuff. So that's what this is. I forgot that she had called too. So this is from 1121. Bonnie, the DON at CDC, said that Marquise labs show that he's dehydrated and stuff. And remember now, he was taken from his apartment and placed over at CDC. I think it was the 15th or 14th, and this is 1121. So all that time, they hadn't been giving him liquids. So here it is.
Yesterday morning, and looks like he's a little dehydrated. His BUN is 40, normal being 1 to 24. So we're going to try to encourage him to drink more fluids, maybe a little extra water at times that he gets his meds. Just wanted to pass that on to you, so I'm sure Dr. Nervez will be redrawing that to see that that's correcting itself, and we'll be encouraging him to drink more. And I'm going to pass that on. And again, if you have any questions, my number is 614-272-3115. Thank you.
To replay, press 4. Message saved.
Okay, so there you have it, saying that he was, they think he was dehydrated because his BUN was elevated, and which means, they hadn't been giving enough liquids. And she said, well, we'll try to correct it by giving some liquids at MedPass. Not just at MedPass. He should have water in his room all the time. And I was even bringing flavor water and regular water up there. The 24 bottle quantity bottles. I would bring that up there for my son. But of course, they put it in the closet, and staff and everybody else could have at it. I mean, but that's why his BUN was elevated. They wouldn't get enough liquids. Now, this next one was also on November 21st. Bonnie, the DON at CDC, told me that they had to x-ray Marquise's hand. Didn't tell me why, but we got to x-ray his hand. So that is what this next one is. And it just makes you wonder, what happened? Why you got to x-ray my son's hand? I mean, did somebody smash it against something, or did he hit it against something? What? No explanation. And she was kind of laughing about it when she was telling me about it. So here you go.
Message from sure. Um, well, I won't say. It's doubtful that anything's wrong, but we just never know. So we are x-raying that. Mobile X will come out sometime this afternoon. There's no way to know when. If you want any other information, um, today after 3 or 4, you can always, probably best just to call the house and get the house nurse on a normal day. I just wanted to make sure that you got the information right away and let you know that we're working on that. Thank you.
So something happened to my son's hand that she didn't know nothing about, or if she did, she wasn't going to tell me. Moving on. And as I go back to my individual audio tapes, recordings of conversations with my son, then that might come up. But these are just the phone messages that were left. And the next one is of Heidi Hughes, the glorified social worker, telling me that they had told David Belinka I signed the papers. Because remember now, he's the crooked, wicked, evil Jewish lawyer that went down there and filed to get my guardianship away. He did it for the system, and he abused his power in doing so. Because advocating for your son and speaking out and telling people, look, this is not right what you're doing to my son, is not abusing and neglecting your child. But he went ahead and did that. But one of the things that he called me and left a message threatening me about putting my son on Risperdal. The idiot didn't know my son had already been on Risperdal years ago and had to be taken off of it after 15 months. And he had to be taken off of it by the hospital because I had to take him to the hospital because it started having the opposite effect and stuff. But anyway, he, called, threatened. I mean, because he was very prideful and very arrogant lawyer that thought he was all powerful and unstoppable, and he was the cat's meow to probate court. I mean, it's just so much stuff. That's why I said I doubt if I could get all of this in 60 minutes or under 60 minutes. But so that's one of the things that he said, that I needed to have my guardianship taken away because I wouldn't sign the papers, which the papers mean consent for evaluation. Well, Marquise had one when he was there for the first time around for the 47 days voluntary admission, because he couldn't be at home while they were doing the walls and the drills and all that sound. He wouldn't have been able to tolerate that. It would have put him in overload. So that's why I put him over there voluntarily, and he was abused. So when they went ahead and illegally committed him again, I wasn't for that, and I was still his guardian, but they went ahead above my head and did that because he had just been abused. He was abused the last time it was there. So during the first time he was there, I signed consent papers for Marquise to have evaluations, psychological evaluation. And this idiot lawyer, Belinka, put down that I wouldn't sign evaluation. Well, guess what? The evaluation or the consent for the evaluation lasts, the durations for 1 year. So I never really had to resign it. Because when I resigned it in January of 2012, it was okay, or it was worth a whole year's worth, which would mean January 2013 is when it would have been out. So, I mean, I look at this stuff. I said, they're so corrupt that they look incompetent to me, But that's one of the things he wrote down. So that's why Heidi Hughes is saying, I don't know what you're talking about when you said Belinka said that. And what I was talking about is I got the letter. It's on the justice page where Heidi Hughes and that sick, corrupt, abusive superintendent, his name was D. Michael Snow. I call him Mike Snow, but it said D. Mike Snow is the way he signs his name. So that's, I guess his actual name, D. Mike Snow. But Belinka told Mike Snow and Heidi Hughes to send a letter to probate court stating that I wouldn't sign any papers. So she called me back denying it. Because that's how I know. I just don't sit up here and think of sick, evil things or sick, evil, wicked people. I don't have to. But I do describe what they do. And I make sure I have evidence to prove that what I'm saying is not slander. I don't believe in slandering anybody. I'm a factual girl. I like evidence and I like truth. And so when I called her and told her that, that's what I was talking about. Because I actually got the letter and see where they had actually said that I refused to sign the paper. So they were saying, well, she shouldn't be the guardian because she's not going to sign any consents for us and stuff. The consent was signed the first time he was there. So that's why I said, just because somebody takes some guardianship away from you don't mean nothing. You got to look at the people. I said, because you got some wicked, racist, sick, corrupt government trash that are in these government jobs. They're in government agencies. They're in the courts, and they're just as racist and sick and evil and wicked as they can be. But just because they're in those jobs, they are able to do, the slander, the foul motions that are false and slanderous and stuff. So I'm going to let you hear this and stuff. But that's why she was saying that. Because she said, we called him and told him that you had already signed the papers. But the letter that he instructed them to sign, and she signed it along with Mike Snow, and I got it on the justice page just to show, the sort of filth that these people are and how they use documents and how they slander you in correspondence and legal documents and stuff. That's what I was talking about. I said, you can deny it all you want. I never called her back about it and stuff because I called her initially and said, you sent this letter along with Mike Snow. You both signed it saying that I refused to sign consents for evaluations. So here, this is right here, her denying it.
Play, press 4. To erase, press 7. Message saved. Next message from phone number 614-272-0509. Received November 21st at 1:35 p.m. Hi, Myra. It's Heidi Hughes from Clemson Developmental Center returning your call. I understand from your message that you talked to Mr. Belinkie, but I'm not sure what you're really referring to because we had sent him an email telling him that you didn't sign the information that we needed. So I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to, but I will be here later this afternoon and also have made some revisions to the behavior plan that you suggested, and I will present that to you today. So I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. So I will talk to you soon, and I also wanted to talk to you to see if you wanted to have Thanksgiving dinner with Marquise in the coffee shop tomorrow. So just give me a call back, or I will see you later. Okay? Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
So there you have it. You can see that she offered for me to have Thanksgiving dinner with Marquise in the coffee shop. And it's been a long time since he's been able, or not able, but allowed to come home to have Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner or birthday holidays with his own mother. A mother that hasn't abused or neglected him, but they're so scared that Marquise would be telling me all the things that has happened to him, and that I'll be looking at his head of skin and his body as a mother that loves her child, that has a right to do, especially when abuse is occurring. They're so afraid that I might see some, some unexplained injuries and scars on my body. So they try to make sure that I don't get to really see him up close, and they don't want him telling me things too, things that they don't want me to know, especially a whistleblowing mother. So she went ahead and denied it, saying that they told him that I signed the papers, which is kind of significant too, because he, like I said, used that as a basis to get my guardianship taken away from him. She didn't sign the consent, which was a lie, because the consent was signed, and I've been signing consents for my son to have evaluations and assessments since he was born, so no big deal to me. But it was signed when he was there the first time, and that consent was still in effect. It would last, because it says on the papers that this consent, this signature, or this consent has a duration of a whole year. I'm just showing people how corrupt and filthy these people are. But Belinkie's dead and gone, and there's an audio, video, or an audio tape because I did record me and his conversation on the phone when he called me. And I even felt the wrath of God. I didn't know what it was, but I felt the wrath of God all over that conversation because this man was so arrogant and, bragging about how he abuses people in court or run over people in court. That's what he said, run over people in court. But anyway, the next recording is of Jack Ward, a probate court investigator. I had called him and he was calling me back because I told him, I said, they're abusing my son. I said, and he doesn't even have his glasses, because I go over there. I look at my son, I look at everything. And now I'm a nurse. I know to assess everything. I said, where's his glasses at? I said, he needs that to see. So I told him that, and I told him he was abusing my son. So he had called me back, say he's going to go over there, which meant nothing because probate court put him over there. I said, these people do their own investigations, just to say it, just like they don't want me as a guardian, because when they fill out like a restraint form, they have to fill out restraint information, and then they have to also put in that they notified the guardian. So they rather have somebody like Sanford who doesn't give a darn than that, because they got to write down somebody that they notify about this ward's restraint. But they don't want to. They're not going to want to have a guardian that is usually a family member or a loved one that cares and that is going to question. They'd rather have some unfit, evil, racist, wicked, lying attorney that they can put her name down there that ain't going to give a darn. And then it's done, because they got to put a name down there, and that's who they rather put in there. But he used that to help get my guardianship away. They said that I wouldn't consent. And then you'll hear his conversation trying to threaten me about putting my son on Risperdal. And the idiot didn't even know he had already been on Risperdal, and it started having the opposite effect, actually at 6 months, because he was on it for 15 months. And around 6 months, he started having the opposite effect. And he had to be hospitalized and took him off of it, But anyway, I hope that I can keep this tape to go over an hour because we're getting there. So this tape is from Jack Ward, a probate court investigator. And he, like I said, he left me a message about receiving my message, telling him Marquise is being abused. I said he didn't have his glass, and he was asking for more details. I'm going, well, he's being abused in a lot of ways. I said, but I guess if I could strip him down, I probably would see all kind of bruises and stuff on him. That's the reason why they don't want Marquise to spend no time alone with me. Especially like in my house or something like that. Because the evidence is there, you can see signs of abuse and doing the restraints and scratches and stuff. They don't want me to see that. And then sometimes Marquise will tell me, like he told me when Robert was hitting him in the head and stuff. So, so you want no guardianship, you could be the best mother in the world. Sometimes if you are, and I'm not saying I'm anybody's perfect mother, I am who I am because of Jesus. If I get any better, it's because of Jesus. But you could be doing all the right things, and you got these wicked, sick, evil people, racist people that, will resent you for that. Because all they want to do is keep on going on with their jobs and their lives and sweep all this stuff under the rug. I said, but I believe that God has me. He'll bring Marquise back home, but he's made sure that I got enough evidence that ain't anybody that's sane and sober and ain't blind and deaf can't come in my face and say I ain't proving it. That's why, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I don't go back and forth with people about my evidence, and I don't do it with racism. Because it's about as real as the nose on our faces. And I don't go, that's just a waste of time to me. I just ban them and block them. So here is that recording from 11/21, Jack Ward, probate court investigator.
To replay, press message saved. Next message from 614-582-5837. Received November 21st at 3:07 p.m.
I was
Jack Ward from Probate Court. My number is 582-5837. I know you made an inquiry about whether your son was being abused at the CDC. I was going to take a trip out there and take a look for myself. But before I did, I wanted the note that I have is kind of brief. It says that you feel that he's being abused and not wearing his glasses and neglected. I just kind of wanted to see if you had any more detailed things that you were not happy with before I went out there. Again, you can reach me at 582-5837, and my name is Jack Ward. Thank you.
To send a reply message, press 2. To replay, press 4. To erase, press 10. Message saved.
So there you have it about that one, to Jack Ward. And I told you Marquise was being abused. He didn't have his glasses. He was being neglected. Nothing came out of it. If you wanted to know what the disposition was, nothing. Because all these people work together. They all go along to get along, scratch each other's back. He just went out there because he's an investigator. So they put people in jobs that really are not going to deliver justice, but it's part of the process. So they'll put him like this investigator. He's got to go investigate, but he's not going to come away with anything that's going to support or show that my son is actually being abused and neglected. And, nothing came out of it, by the way. But it just shows I've been calling all along. I can't even remember all the people in government and out of government and news media that I have contacted. And the Lord has shown me, because I'm going to blow it up. He said, I'll blow this thing up. He said, you just keep being faithful, keep getting your evidence, and then I'll blow it up. And I don't argue with people about 3 things. Like I said, the racism, I won't argue about my evidence, and I don't really argue about legal venues, because I had a corrupt attorney who is now a judge. She was appointed finally by the state of Ohio, but the first 2 times she ran for judge, she was defeated overwhelmingly in a landslide by the incumbent judges named Jill Flagg. She actually took the case and filed a lawsuit that was just full of errors and everything. And they said she filed it in the wrong court. But I think, you know how attorneys network the opposing sides. And, they got her to, because she told me she didn't want to have the case no more. And to find another lawyer, and she'll help me find another lawyer and stuff. But she lied before that, and I still got Jill's Texas, too. Where because she's up in Akron, and she supposed to have came down and refiled it. You know what she did? And you remember, you got deadlines with these filings. And instead of filing and refiling, refiling like she said she was, she went to I forgot where she went, but she went out of town. She went on vacation. But they talked her out of, so I've been there. I've been the legal route. I just seeked out attorneys and stuff. I'm past that. I got an attorney named Jesus Christ that's going to make this right. So I don't argue those things with stuff that I'm past with. I said, I don't argue with somebody that can't, because some people can't handle the truth. It can slap them in the face, and they'll still not be able to accept it and handle truth. So she went ahead and